First of all, thanks for having me. My name is Michael Seto. See from there. Thanks to Alicia and Adam and all of SALT. I'm a friend of theirs and I'm a freelance photographer. I've been a freelance photographer for about 6 years now. And today is really, I'm calling the class Business 101. I'm not going to talk about camera stuff, we're not going to talk about technique, we're not going to get too in-depth into any one topic, but I want to talk about the business of photography and kind of give you guys a sense of what has made me successful as I look at my own business, and hopefully you'll take away a couple of pointers as you start your own careers in photography, and as you guys think about going to college or whatever you're going to study there. I think these will carry over whether or not you decide to go into photography or not. So I don't want to make it me talking to you guys the whole time, so feel free to ask questions at any time. I guess we have about 2 hours. I haven't done this presentation before, so I have no idea how long it's going to take, but there'll be a lot of stuff. I'm not going to talk about everything you see. Everything that is in my presentation is in the papers in front of you, so you don't have to worry about copying down everything. You just take notes, for whatever you think is useful. And again, ask questions, but I'll make sure I leave some time at the end, so if you have anything you want to talk about, let me know. And if you want to make a statement or you don't believe what I'm saying, feel free to, let's make it interactive is what I mean. Sound good? All right. So, Business 101, how I went from shooting stuff for free to shooting for Victoria's Secret. So, just a little background about me, kind of adult attention deficit disorder. I went to UC Berkeley, studied economics, went into the Marine Corps. I was an infantry officer for 4 years. So you may hear a little bit of military terminology in my presentation. Worked on Capitol Hill for Leon Panetta when he was a congressman. He's now the Secretary of Defense, and he was the former director of the CIA. And then I went to work on Wall Street for 10 years. Worked for Morgan Stanley until 2006. And then I left that job and decided I wanted to pursue something that I've always loved, which is photography. And so I started photography without any formal training, without going to school for photography. I was always a hobbyist, kind of self-taught, just loved taking pictures. And so I think it's interesting to think about what I did in those 6 years that got me to shooting for the clients that I'm shooting for now, including the Wall Street Journal, Billboard, all that, a lot of financial firms, a lot of nonprofits and museums, and some retail clients as well. So, kind of my style, what I love is documentary, reportage. I'm not a big in the studio kind of guy. I love shooting stuff that's just happening in front of me, trying to capture that. So I tend to do a lot of live stuff. I shoot a lot of corporate events, newsy type stuff. I do a lot of film and stage work, so I'm shooting a lot of live music or performances. I'm also one of the guys who is on the set of feature films, and I shoot the behind-the-scenes stuff. I shoot what they call production stills. Those are the photos that you might see, in the Hollywood Reporter, Variety Magazine, Entertainment Weekly, that sort of thing, which is pretty fun. And then my personal passion, and which is what kind of really got me into photography, and I'm sorry it doesn't look as good as it does on my computer, is travel. So I've been to about 85 countries. I love to just take pictures of people and how people live elsewhere. So that is what really got me into my love of photography as a hobby, and then I transitioned to being a professional. So as an aside, paper in front of you, there's a Chinese saying that the palest ink is superior to the best memory. And as you move forward, you're going to get all this information from classes, classmates, people, people you interact with business-wise. There's no way you can remember everything. So I highly recommend developing a habit of taking notes. I was at Adorama the other day. Who has heard of Bill Frakes? Bill Frakes shoots for National Geographic, Sports Illustrated. He's famous for, and I'll show you a couple of his things, but he's famous for his technical ability with remotes, remote cameras. So for example, at the Kentucky Derby, he had about 30 remote cameras set up at the finish line to capture it from all different angles. But he's been in the business like 30 years, and he's kept his notebooks from day one. He has all these notebooks of lighting diagrams, how he set things up, ideas that he had, brainstorming. And so, think of what an amazing resource that is. And I think someone else that Alicia knows as well, Joe McNally, is also, a couple of the books that he has written about photography and lighting is based a lot on his notes. So take notes, make notes, because otherwise you're going to forget. So what am I going to talk about today? A couple of things. Kind of what is the business of photography? What does it mean to be a professional photographer? How to land your first job? Kind of what you should be doing? What are some important things to do when you're on the job? How to get your next job? And as you're growing as a photographer, what are some resources to help you professionally? How do you build out your inventory of equipment and gear? How do you choose what types of things to buy? And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some legal and economic things you should think about as well in regards to photography. So, Santa at the mall with 2 crying kids. You could be this person at the mall, or you could be doing something much more interesting. And hopefully, if you listen to me, you'll be able to do some more interesting stuff. So, let's talk a little bit about I'm going to go put my Wall Street hat on for a moment and walk through photography nowadays. And Alicia, if you want to differ with me, let me know. It's not an easy business. Okay? Photography is not an easy business. And it's not lucrative. You're not going to make a lot of money in photography, most likely. I think the annual salary on average for photographers is about $35,000 a year. That's according to the Department of Labor Statistics. So that's not a lot of money. In New York, I think it's quite a bit higher. I would say almost double that from people I know, but you're not going to get rich doing photography. So it's got to be something that you love. If not, then maybe it's best left as a hobby, something you do on the weekends. But I'm assuming we're all here because we love it and we want to make a go of it, right?
Or that, like anything, photography, you guys are still young, and you've got a long way ahead of you. Photography, learning the skills of a photographer doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a photographer. It's another thing, another trick to have in your back pocket that makes you more marketable as a person, as a whole person in the business world. So some of you might not go into photography, but you're going to have a skill set of being a photographer that can be used in any business, and that would make you a more valuable and probably higher paid employee.
And I'll talk about some of those things. That's absolutely right. To tell an employer that, hey, I started my own business, did it for 3 years, it was successful, but I decided to transition out of that. But here are the things that I learned from starting and running my own business will stand you in good stead with employers. One of the reasons I got hired at my Wall Street firm was they said, oh, you're a former Marine, great, because the woman you're working for is an absolute terror, and she's lost 3 assistants in the last 6 months. Since you're a Marine, you might deal with it. So everything you do, if you're learning from it, is not necessarily a waste of time or a dead end. The average person nowadays changes jobs like 5 times. I'm on my 4th career or vocation. So, don't worry about taking a flyer and taking a chance on something. So, why is photography not easy? There's some trends going on. Declining revenue base means generally the amount of money people are spending on photography is going down. That's mainly because of the internet. There's a lot fewer magazines and publications out there. They're spending less on photography. You've seen so many newspapers and print magazines basically close up shop. So there's a declining revenue base, and generally in the middle markets, people are not willing to pay as much for photography as they used to. Why is that? Anyone? People can afford their own cameras. I think that's exactly right. And that goes to the next thing, commoditization. What's a commodity? Commodity is one thing that's essentially interchangeable for the other. It means a basic unit of something. So photography, photographs, they're everywhere, right? You got Flickr, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere you look. Anyone can nowadays take a photograph with their phone, right? So photographs are ubiquitous. They're commoditized in general. You know, there's still a lot of great, unique photography out there, and I'm going to get to that. But generally, right, people are happy. I'm at a party, my Instagram, my friends put it on Facebook. That's the only photo they feel like they need. You guys agree? In general. So people are willing to pay less for that. The market is more fragmented, meaning there's not as many big buyers anymore because all the newspapers and magazines are having a tough time. So there's a positive to this, and I'll get to that later, but there's not as many big centers, big pots of money that you can go to as a photographer and make a living. Lower barriers to entry. Again, cameras are cheap. They're very good now, right? I mean, even the most basic Rebel or Nikon, anyone can pick up a camera and you can take a picture that's in focus, properly exposed, without really knowing what you're doing, right? You set it on P, you hold it up and take the picture, or auto, and you're good to go. The skills that you guys are learning, shutter priority, aperture priority, shooting on manual, rear curtain sync, all the technical stuff that we're learning as photographers, that stuff is programmed into the cameras now a lot. So it makes it easier for people to take their own pictures. So it's easier for people to come into this business and take some of the work that we might get paid for normally. And then finally, loss of pricing power, meaning the same thing, prices are going down, right? You say, I'm going to charge you $200 to do something, and the client says, well, you know what, I'm only going to pay you $100 for that. Or I'll find another guy who'll do it for $100, someone will do it for free. So these are some of the things that we're facing in photography that make it a little more difficult for us going forward. But on the positive side, I think that the market for content is growing. What do I mean by content? Put you on the spot. Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll give you the answer. The market for content, right? There's more websites. There's Facebook. There's MySpace. Time Magazine is time.com. New York Times is newyorktimes.com. All these mirror sites to their print things. And what do we get on these websites that you don't get in the print? They have slideshows, they have videos, they've got a lot more content. So in fact, even though I think there's some issues with the market overall, I think there's more room for photographers to throw content out there. If you do a 2-page spread in Billboard magazine, maybe I'll get 8 photos in there. But then they do 3 slideshows of the event that I photographed, and each slideshow is 20 photos, so I've got another 60 that are being used. So I think with that, you're getting a lot more opportunities, especially if you do video and then some other stuff, to generate content. And clients need content. They need stuff to fill up those websites, Huffington Post, those kinds of websites need a lot of things. So here's me right here with the crew from one of the Victoria's Secret shoots. And in the middle is Candace Swanepoel, the supermodel. Just to remind you that you still can do well in this business. And here is what I think I've done to allow myself to succeed as a photographer. So take a look at that. Work ethic, relationships, self-discipline, and talent. And in fact, I feel that is the order of importance for me. Is it kind of weird to have talent at the bottom? No? Why do you say that, Eddie?
Because it's really about the one to look at the guys who are great to work like together relationship, make connection, and to maintain relationship, you have to have self-discipline and talent. It's like, you know, it's just a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eddie basically said it. You know, there are going to be times when your talent sets you apart, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, you know, as we go forward. But I think that if you work hard, you build your relationship with clients, classmates, friends, people you meet, that is going to allow you to generate a lot more new business. About 90% of the new jobs I get is by referral. Very infrequently. I think the other 10% is people see my website, they Google search for a photographer in New York, and somehow ended up picking me. But 90%, 9 out of the 10 new jobs that I get is because someone said, you need to hire Michael Seto. You should call him. This is the guy you want to work with. So it's about relationships. And then self-discipline is just, you know what? You have to be out there doing the right things, blocking and tackling, working on your portfolio, reaching out to clients, building your website, all the little small things that I'm going to talk about that are business basics that you will need to do. You know, once you're out of school, you can do whatever you want. You can go party all night and, you know, not do anything. But if you want to be successful, you need to make sure you're working hard on the right things, and that's where the self-discipline comes in. So relationships, as I alluded to right here, I think you guys all get that already, but I hope you're helping each other out. You know, the perfect, you've got perfect people you can bring on as a second shooter or an assistant. If someone's doing a shoot and they need someone, you know, ask your classmates, hey, can you come hold the reflector or help me out? You know, the relationships you build here, you know, with Alicia, Adam, Shari, and some of the other instructors, myself, I'll give you my contact info. Stay in touch with people like us. Stay in touch with each other, because it's going to be the first line of people you can, you know, call upon when you need someone to help you out. Okay, I'm not going to really talk about this, just a little boilerplate. What is a business? I think this is fun. You know, business without profit is basically a hobby. So hopefully we're going to get ourselves to the stage where you are making a profit and are able to, you know, earn a living doing photography. So what do I think the business of photography is? Everyone read that? We are providing image solutions to our clients, right? Ultimately, that's what we're doing. Whether it's for an advertisement, a corporate portrait, events, weddings, we're providing solutions around imagery for them. This is kind of a Wall Street or value added. You know, so where do you add value to what the client is doing? Think about that for a second. Where do you add value to, you know, what the client is trying to accomplish with their imagery? And then also think about the other side of that. How do you think your client sees you? You know, how are you helping them? And I'm going to go through a couple of things here. This is where I think there's several ways to distinguish yourself as a photographer. All right, I'm going to go through a pretty quick technique. I saw some people working on Photoshop back there. You know, maybe you have a specialized technique. Specifically, for example, has anyone tried to shoot liquids before? Okay. Is it hard? Yeah. It is not easy, right? So there are a couple of great photographers out there who all they do is shoot liquids. They build their own cannons, and you know, they have the laser timers and all sorts of things to get that exactly right, and they make, you know, tens or more thousands of dollars on their shoots for, you know, corporate clients. So maybe you are an expert in technique. Hard to see, that's James Cameron. Maybe you developed specialized equipment. Who saw Avatar?
Which one?
The first one. I mean, the theatrical release.
Oh,
The theatrical release, Avatar? Okay, did you see it?
yeah.
Anyway, he developed his very own three-dimensional camera for that. He built it himself, essentially, out of 2 cameras to create the look for Avatar. So, you know, maybe you're one of these guys who has a specialized piece of equipment, or you create it, or you own it, let's say. Maybe you're the first guy in your block to buy the Red Scarlet or Red Epic, you know, $40,000 camera, and that sets you apart from the other people. Maybe it's creative vision. This guy, Doug Saunders, check him out. He's just got some great ideas in terms of his vision, and his name is on the sheet there for you. And what's wonderful about Doug is his blog really talks you through step by step how he puts these images together, because this is a shot with 20 or 30 layers of different things, poker chips, and that sort of thing. Maybe it's about access. Annie Leibovitz, was able to take photographs of Queen Elizabeth because of her status, she had access. So that's another specialty. Maybe one of you guys knows a particular group of people. I knew a woman in a photography class who was very in tight with this group of gothic, transsexual people who were going out in nightclubs all the time. And so one of her photo projects was to photograph this group. And if you didn't have that access, you might not be able to do a project like that. Technical knowledge. This is, you can't see it, but this is a guy setting up a bunch of remote cameras on the floor of a basketball court. What's your name? Marilyn. Hi, Michael. So maybe you have specialized technical knowledge. You know how to set up a lot of different equipment, and that adds value to your client. Everyone recognizes this guy, right? Dave Hill. He shoots these really interesting images, and then he does a lot of post-production to it to create this almost photo illustration book. And, he did this. He was very well known for this a few years ago, and a lot of people have since kind of copied that. But at the time, it was like the Dave Hill book. So maybe you are an expert in doing post-production, or you have your own secret sauce to make a unique image. You could be a person who just has a great team of people. If you're doing a big shoot, you know how to bring producers on, you know how to bring makeup artists, models, assistants, digital techs, all the people that need to make a big shoot come together. So when a client comes to you, they will feel more confident, in trusting you with a $150,000 ad shoot for Nike or something like that, if you're known for it. You can also compete on price. You can be the cheapest photographer out there, but then in my mind, you're going to be working at Sears shooting pets and kids. So my advice to you is not to compete on price, although you do have to keep that in mind. And then that's me getting a photograph of former President Bill Clinton at a event. And I put that into customer service because I think that is one of the areas where I excel in. And if customer service is something we'll talk about a little more. How are we doing? Everyone doing good? Not moving too fast? Feel free, again, if you have questions, Marilyn, you weren't here earlier, if you have questions, feel free to bring them up. Everything in the presentation is on the handout there, so you don't have to write everything down. So, client service. What did I say earlier? What are we? We are providing image solutions. So, image solutions to our client. What's the best way to help them? I think the first thing you need to do is understand your clients, right? What business are they in? How do they think about branding themselves? How do they see themselves? Are they cutting edge, cool new tech company? Are they an older, more conservative financial institution? How do they envision their brand? Because as you work with clients, you really want to understand their business and how they brand themselves, because that's how you can apply your vision to what they're doing, right? We don't want to necessarily shoot a bunch of skateboarders for a financial institution because it doesn't fit with their brand. So understanding the client's brand, their business, as well as their budget, will help you figure out the right way to provide your solutions to them. What does your client want? The person that you speak to as a client, what do they ultimately want you to do for them? You guys said it earlier, we're providing image solutions. So we're content providers, but we want to provide solutions and not problems. From an interpersonal standpoint, no one wants to work with someone who's a pain in the butt, right? And as a professional photographer, you need to make sure you are, making life easier for them, and you are helping them out. I think Magic Johnson said it one time. Everyone knows who Magic Johnson is, right? Basketball player and now entrepreneur. But he said a good point guard makes himself look great. A great point guard makes everybody on the team look great. Does that make sense? So if you really want to be someone that people are coming to, you want to make not only yourself look good, but you want to make the person who's hiring you look good. Then, they're going to love you because they're working on a limited budget. Maybe they're taking a risk with you. It's the first time working with you as a photographer. You're fairly young. You're not as proven as a more established photographer. And so, they're taking a chance on you as a professional and as someone who wants to get more business. Your job is to knock the ball out of the park, make them look like they made a great decision, and their boss will come in and go, wow, that photographer you hired was great, good job, and that person will love you. And they will recommend you to other people, and they'll want to hire you again. I'm going to take 1 second, guys, to just pause. Good.